Because these forces take a long time to develop, either as people and as equipment and as combinations of units, they need to be able to look and have a responsibility to look 5, 10, 15 years into the future and to provide for forces for those areas. But because Canadians don't tend to think that way, because politicians and community leaders haven't been brought up in any sense of a strategic Canada, they tend to think very narrowly. There is no threat. If there is a threat, the Americans will take care of us.
We are a nation that's not really concerned about our military. We are a nation that has security provided to us by the United States, and so we don't worry about it. Politicians don't worry about it. Canadians are ill-informed, and most people don't understand the military. Was it 0.5% of the population have ever served in the military? So it's really a non-issue.
But are there not international catastrophes that Canada would like to tackle on its own without the help of U.S. forces? Or what about terrorism at home? In October of 2003, 2 Israeli El Al airliners flying into Toronto's Pearson Airport were forced to divert to Hamilton due to credible threats of a potential terrorist land-to-air missile attack. What would have happened if there had been an attack? How would our American neighbors have responded?
One of the, I think, areas that we as Canadians simply do not understand is that we have a very direct role to play in American security because, in some cases, infrastructure which is critical to the economy of the United States is physically located in Canada. And I'll give you the example. We supply about 100%, 95% of the natural gas consumption of the American states of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and about 30% of the natural gas supply of California. And of course, in California, natural gas fires about 30% of the state's electricity production. So in terms then of American energy consumption on the West Coast, if anything happened to that Canadian natural gas supply, we have a potential of turning all the lights out on the entirety of the West Coast of the United States. That natural gas flows across the border in 2 pipeline channels. Now, there's a big trench with a number of pipes in it. About every 150 miles, there's a compressor station that keeps that gas moving. Now, if I were sitting there in the Al-Qaeda planning network, I would be very interested in seeing just how secure those compressor stations were in Canada, because I understand about the technology of doing things like fertilizer bombs. If you then scale that up and took a prairie grain truck of about 7 tons and filled it full of a fertilizer bomb and ran it into a compressor station and blew it, as the suicide bombers do, you could then potentially take out the entirety of the West Coast's electricity and gas supplies. Now that means that the Americans are becoming increasingly concerned about whether or not that infrastructure in Canada is protected and is safe.
Without security, you really cannot have prosperity. Without prosperity, you really cannot have social programs. And so for those people who would rather spend money on social programs than on defense programs, they will have to learn to understand that it is going to be security that provides the prosperity that provides those social programs. And to be secure and to be seen to be secure will require increased attention to the armed forces.
I would hope we would avoid a crisis. I would hope we would avoid a disaster. I would hope that reports such as this will alert the community to the fact that the crisis is gathering, as we say. But if they fail to take on board, if governments and leaders fail to take on board the circumstances we're living in and the effect that's going to have in the future, then we'll be in a very great deal of trouble, and perhaps even Canada's national sovereignty will be at stake.